Hey, happy holidays, everybody. I start this with an email I got. I've just got to read this to you. It goes like this. Statement by spokesman for Congressman Jackson. As a responsible citizen and elected official, Congressman Jackson has in the past provided information to federal authorities regarding his personal knowledge of perceived corruption and governmental misconduct. This was completely unrelated to the current federal investigation regarding the U.S. Senate appointment, the investigation of course, Illinois Governor Ron Blagojevich. And it is completely inaccurate to describe the congressman as an informant. I guess maybe they're indirectly referring to something that I said. Kenneth Edmonds writes this. Kenneth Edmonds is the spokesman for Congressman Jackson. Now, what I found interesting about this particular email is that it doesn't seem to have been written by Kenneth Edmonds, because at the bottom of it, it reads info@richmondgrouponline.com, Kenny Johnson. I thought that sounds familiar, and I think Kenny Johnson's the same guy that threw the election night party for Congressman Jackson. But, okay, I thought, so what? Why isn't this on some sort of official email letterhead or statement from Congressman Jackson himself? And I thought, well, let me see if this really is Kenneth Edmonds before I noticed the Kenny Johnson at the bottom. So I started doing a little fishing around, and I found this cool website called legistorm.com, and it reports that Kenneth A. Edmonds is indeed a congressional staffer, and it informs that he is also indeed chief of staff at this point to Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. It also reports his salary, and it's fascinating how it's broken down. For example, he is paid by the House Appropriations Committee, and they pay him in segments. Apparently, the first payment was on the 4/01/08 through 6/30/08, and that was for $29,957.75. And he was paid again from the same source, but earlier, January 1st of 2008 to March 31st of 2008 for $29,967.75. Again, the same amount. Then on top of that, he gets $6,548.51 for being chief of staff. And that's just for the first 3 months of this year. He gets an additional $221.98, and then in December another $3,329, and then again in October, for work done from October to December of 2007, he got $29,967. So that fiscal year subtotal for 2008 comes to $100,003. So I thought that's really fascinating. So apparently from this, it seems that he is paid more from the committee assignments that his boss gets than from his regular job. Now, I haven't checked to see if that's true for the other congressional staffers, but it would seem to me that if your congressional or Senate representative is on a committee, then that person's staffers get paid more money because their boss is on a committee. They have a committee assignment, which is why committee assignments are thought to be plum assignments. They're not just plum in terms of prestige, they're plum in terms of money. So I thought to myself, I wonder what the chief of staff for current Vice President Dick Cheney makes. Well, that chief of staff was originally was Scooter Libby. And then Scooter Libby gave way to another person, David Abernathy, I believe, and so I decided to check that as well. David Addington is his name, not Abernathy. His name is David Addington. But I decided to check that salary as well using the same legistorm.com source. That's legistorm.com. And what I found read this: the vice presidential staff salaries void. Vice President Dick Cheney might head his own fourth branch of government, as his critics have noted of his unusual legal claims to be outside the disclosure laws of the other branches of government. But some of his staff's salaries are reported with the legislative branch, just not all of them. So we were reminded by a piece by Dave Frumkin on today's Washington Post website, which points out that our website has salaries for 33 Office of the Vice President staffers by virtue of its mostly ceremonial role as President of the Senate. But top Cheney aides such as Chief of Staff David S. Addington and National Security Advisor John Hanna, who are paid out of the Vice President's executive appropriation, don't show up anywhere in the public domain. It must be nice to avoid such scrutiny. That's fascinating. You know, it would seem to me that in this era of a desire for transparency, that we should know how much Dick Cheney's chief of staff makes, and moreover, from which source it comes from. It's amazing that the office of the President of the United States and the office of the Vice President of the United States under George Bush and Dick Cheney has had this amazing veil of secrecy. They apparently do a good job of ducking at more than just shoes.